All right, T Limited has the following information. All right, so we've been given the years, we've been given the activity, how many units they've been producing in those years, and the costs attached to that activity. So they've asked us using the high-low method and the least squares method. First, estimate the fixed cost per month, then estimate, oh, not fixed cost per month, year, then estimate total costs for the following levels of activity: 6,000 units and 7,500 units. So we're going to start with the high-low method. These are the steps that you must follow when you're using the high-low method. All right. So step one, determine the highest and lowest activity. All right. So we're going to come to our information here. We'll look for which year had the highest activity, and the one which does the highest activity obviously is going to have the highest cost, and which year we had the lowest activity. So in 2018, we produced 5,000 units. This is the highest, all right, and this is the highest cost. So get this information here. Then in 2020, that's when we have the lowest activity. We've produced the lowest number of units. So we have the lowest total cost in that year, all right? So the reason why we're getting the highest and lowest activities is first we want to determine the variable costs, all right, which is step two, right? Find the variable cost. So I can just make a small table here. Right, highest activity, number of units, and cost. So we have 5,000 units here, 125,000, and then lowest activity, 1,000 units, so 75,000. Right, so we're going to subtract the highest units from the lowest units, and the highest cost from the lowest cost. Then how we're going to get our variable cost is we're going to use this formula. Variable cost, abbreviate as VC, equals the cost divided by number of units. All right. So we're going to subtract 5,000 minus 1,000, we get 4,000 here. 125,000 minus 75,000, we get 50,000 here. Right, so to get our variable cost, we're going to divide 50,000 from 4,000. Our calculators. 50,000 divided by 4,000, we get 12.5 kwacha per unit. Right? So we've obtained our variable cost, right? Then step three, well, that's where we determine our fixed costs. So step three, so remember the equation total cost equals fixed costs minus variable costs. All right, total fixed costs minus total variable costs. So to get our fixed costs, we'll rearrange this equation. It's going to be fixed costs equals total costs minus variable costs. So this is where we can either use the high or we can use the low to obtain our fixed cost. So let us use the high, meaning we're going to use the activity for the total cost for our highest activity and the number of units for our highest activity. Another question. Total cost using the high is 125,000. Our variable cost, since we've produced 5,000 units, so we're going to multiply it by this 12.5 kwacha per unit. So say 12.5 multiplied by 5,000 units. Oh no. Oh no, oh no, oh no, no. Are you able to get me? Are you able to get me? And are you able to see the screen again? All right, so we're using the high, all right, the highest activity to obtain our fixed costs. All right, so on the part here where we're obtaining our total variable cost, remember our variable cost is 12.5 kwacha per unit, and we produced 5,000 units. So we want to find out how much is the total variable cost. So 12.5 times 5,000, we get 62,500. Right. So we're going to subtract total cost minus variable cost so that we obtain our fixed cost. So we'll say 125,000 minus 62,500. We're going to get 62,500. That is our fixed cost, 62,500. Right? And we can make an equation for this one, our cost function. And then the cost function which is says total cost, I mean fixed cost plus variable costs, VC. I will make it like in the equation of a line. If you remember the equation of a line, that is y equals mx plus b. So this m represents the variable costs, x represents the number of units, right? Then the b represents the fixed costs. So if we put it in the equation format, it's going to be our variable cost is 12.5 quarter per unit. So say 12.5 x plus our fixed cost 62,500. Right? So we've put it in an equation format, and we can answer part two of the equation where they say estimate the total costs for the following levels of activity: 6,000 units and 7,500 units. So we're just going to replace x with 6,000 and also 7,500. B, we're going to say y, which represents our total cost, going to go to 12.5 divided by 6,000 plus 62,500. So if we produce 6,000 units, we're expecting a total cost of, let's say, 12.5 times 6,000, that's 75,000, plus 62,500. So we're expecting a total cost of 137,500. What? All right, that's if we produce 6,000 units. And if we produce 7,500 units, we substitute y with 7,500. So it's a 12.5. We put in here 7,500 plus 6,500. All right, so 12.5 times 7,500, that's 93,750. And add that with 62,500. So if we produce 7,500 units, we expect a total cost of 156,250 kwacha, right? So that's how we use the high-low method to obtain our fixed costs, our variable costs, and also estimate the total cost we expect to incur